Hey, what is up, guys? My name is Guillaume. This is Thomann's Guitars and Basses, and welcome to this week's episode of Hit the Tone, where we look at the song Whiskey by Joey Landreth, starting with our guitar setup. Joey Landreth is famous for using a bunch of different guitars, from Suhr guitars to Collins guitar to more recently handmade Canadian top-notch of the notch gold top guitar equipped with P90s. And that particular song off of his solo record was played on various different instruments, but the one that I'm focusing on today is the Collins 335 sort of inspired guitar, as well as his Sorokin custom-made gold top. Those are the two versions that I've based myself off of with the live session that he did for that pedal show, and further studio recordings where he plays that song on the gold top. So my guitar for the day is going to be my own Fender Stratocaster. Now, I know it's been modified quite heavily to have a humbucker and a lipstick in the neck. I think that lipstick comes close enough to P90s because I've also been using 500K pots with that specific pickup, and this is definitely the closest thing that I have to those guitars that Joey uses. What you want is either a P90 guitar in the in-between position, or preferably a single coil type of instrument in the neck, but something that's fairly bright and spanky because you're going to dial everything else pretty dark. So this is my guitar. I'll be playing in the neck position, so playing the single coil. Let's have a look at our amp and pedal setup. And now things get slightly more complicated because Joey is a man of excellent taste, and he's playing a whole lot of very custom pedals, some very custom amps as well, so it's going to be kind of hard to emulate. But as far as the amp goes, I'm going to be using the Deluxe Reverb, fairly loud, like we're on 5, a little bit above 5. And you really do want to push that much volume with this amp because Joey uses a Mike Bloomfield 2-rock amplifier, so a lot more powerful than this is, and also kind of more, a little bit grittier. Let's say, at least in the way that he uses it. So more like edge of breakup type of thing, which this amp really barely does unless it's uncomfortably loud. But what you want is an American sounding sort of pedal platform, and this is going to do just fine. And into it, I'm going to be playing the Archer by J Rocket Audio, which is obviously a clone type of circuit. Those settings will be on your screen. Joey uses the, I think, Mjolnir overdrive for that particular part of the song for the intro just before kicking in the fuzz. That's the kind of thing you're looking for, clone type of circuit, which this is a really great rendition of. And I'm also adding the Starlight Echo Station and the Golden Reverb from Universal Audio Effects, because there is obviously quite a bit of reverb. Now I'm thinking that on Joey's version, he was mostly using the amps reverb, but he's well known for using a bunch of different other sort of reverb pedals too, and this is one of my favorites. And the delay is a fairly important part of that introduction because it's really a sort of tape delay, like modulated tape delay, but in time with the riff. So this one has a really great tape delay sound, and also a tap tempo, which I think is going to be important for that. I think on that particular song, he used the Strymon timeline because of the different presets that he goes through with it. But yeah, this is basically the vibe I'm going for. So I'm going to start by playing the amp alone, and then I'll kick in the Archer, Starlight, and Golden so you guys can hear the difference they make. So the idea here is not to touch the core sound of the Fender amp. Obviously, if you have something that's more in line with the Mike Bloomfield signature 2-rock, go for that, obviously. But it's, a lot less accessible, whether it's, in terms of availability or just price point. If you have that, I think the Archer does a whole lot of lifting for that super kind of percussive aspect to this sound, and obviously reverb and delay, I'm not going to explain those. But I'm super happy with that sound, and now let's go on to the final part of that video, which as usual is the most important, and is how to play the riff. And there's a bunch of keep in mind today. Obviously, Joey Landreth is very famous for his slide playing and his use of open tuning. So for that particular song, you want to be tuned in open C. So that's 1-5-1-3-5-1. So C, G, C, E, G, C. From lowest to highest note. Now keep in mind that with a tuning that low, you want to adapt sort of your string gauge as well. So right now this is 16 to 64 on the bass side, but I think you can definitely get away with it with a lighter set of strings as well. But there's a bunch of videos made by Joey explaining like what kind of string gauge he uses depending on if it's a long scale, like a Fender scale guitar, or more of a Gibson scale. So keep that in mind. So tuning, as I said, open C. And yeah, let's have a closer look at how to play the riff exactly. Now, the thing is, it looks a lot simpler than it actually is, because you have to keep in mind that for the rest of the song, Joey is mostly going to play slide. So he's wearing that slide for the intro as well. That is a substantial gap from fret 7 down to fret 4 to cover with just those 3 fingers without sort of slipping up and letting a whole bunch of noise through as well. It is a lot more complicated to play than it looks. I think that playing that on a Gibson scale instrument might make things a little bit easier because of the frets being closer together physically. That being said, if you have small hands, I'd highly recommend just leaving the slide off to play the intro and playing it this way, and then putting the slide back on once you get to that part. It's a little bit of a transition effort, but at least to practice might be a little bit easier. But with that said, I think this is just an absolutely killer riff that feels simple enough, but at the same time, it's just extremely satisfying to play once you start playing it right. And I'm not even talking about kicking in the fuzz after that and just ripping it. This is just like a phenomenal song altogether. But with that said, I think that's it, guys. You have all the tools you need to hit the tone on Whiskey by Joey Landreth. As usual, I hope that episode was useful, that maybe you've learned a thing or two today, and if so, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on what's coming next. Also, please don't forget to let me know in the comment section which song you'd like me to cover here in the future, and I'll get to you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, wish you all a fantastic week, and I'll see you next Monday in a new episode of Hit the Tone. Take care.